We're live. What's up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. Tonight I've got Mr. Tony Higbee from the Tom Keifer band here with me. How's it going, Tony?
It's going good, man. How you doing?
Well, just wait until we can get back out there and play some damn music for everybody.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I actually got to play a gig this last Saturday night. It was, nothing like pre-COVID days, but it was nice.
I have not been on stage in, dude, I gotta be honest, I'd have to look. I think literally today might be the anniversary of a year since I've been on stage. Yeah. So we did a run of shows in February, and unless I'm mistaken, the last show was up in Michigan. I want to say the Casino in a theater, and Kicks and Faster Pussycat opened.
Okay, very cool.
Because I just saw a photo pop up in a year ago today, and I think that was the last show we played.
Okay. Now how close did you guys have another run to that before the lockdown happened? Did you guys lose some pretty close dates?
We actually had a couple months off. We were supposed to end in February, and then I think we had a couple months off, March, April, and then we were going to start a shed run that we were supposed to do, and it was going to be Rat, us, Skid Row, and Slaughter.
Okay.
And that was going to, be off and on for a few months. We had a month of shows over in Europe lined up, and we were supposed to do Steelhouse Fest and Wacken Open Air and some big bucket list shows, and and then I had a month of stuff that was lining up as far as shows with my band, the Gamblers, Eastside Gamblers, and it all just kind of, it was one of those things. It was like, well, I'm sure it's like, well, maybe we'll get these shows in later in the summer, and maybe we'll get these shows in the fall, and
oh, absolutely.
I think a lot of us thought, oh, it's going to be a few weeks, and then we thought, oh, it'll be a couple months, and then here we are.
Yeah, I remember looking at like stuff happening in October and being like in March when it first hit, and then be like, okay, October. We were like starting to look at like some stuff to happen around then, and we're like, of course, it has to be back to normal by October. And
yeah, right.
That was 6 months ago now.
yeah. Oh, brutal, just brutal.
Yeah. I'm laughing now, but the laughing is very lightheartedly. It's because I don't know what else to do at this point.
Listen, man, we're just all trying to figure it out and do the best we can and try to be positive. And I feel like, as far as being a musician, and honestly, just anybody, any walk in life, I feel like we're all just trying to keep the glass half full right now.
Yeah.
So, doing something positive. You got that Minefield thing going, and you guys are putting out music, which is super cool. And the Gamblers have been plugging away a little bit at some writing, and, just kind of slowly starting to work on another record. And, kind of going from there. And, I haven't, the Keifer band has just been laying low. Like, everybody's trying to stay home, be safe, and, no big crowds, no nothing like that. And I haven't seen anybody. I haven't seen Tom and Savannah since I got off the bus last year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've talked to them, talked to both of them actually as recently in the last week, but I haven't actually seen them in person, and I think I bumped into Kendra at the grocery store one day. I bumped into our tour manager at a little kind of a corner spot that I go that's usually pretty empty to go grab a bite to eat. And he just happened to walk in, and, my guitar tech moved here. I've seen him a couple times, but, it's been, it's been pretty weird. You spend all this time around these people all the time. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you know what? You probably shouldn't do that for a little while.
Yeah.
Keep it locked down, keep it locked in, and just, try to be safe,
Yeah, absolutely. You go from being around these people 24/7, 7 days a week to, those are people that you're around more than sometimes people that live in your own house. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's, listen, it is what it is. We're all just trying to be safe. I'm sure you are. I had cancer at one point, so I can't mess around. I gotta
Oh
be,
wow. Okay.
my immune system is one of those things that on paper probably isn't fantastic. So if I get COVID, it could be a bad scene. So I just gotta, I gotta take just that many extra precautions and just,
Oh wow. Okay.
you're kind of trying to stay hunkered down.
Have you been able to get a vaccine yet? Is
Not
that something that you're doing?
Not yet. I'm waiting. I think I'm eligible for the next wave in Tennessee.
Okay.
I've been in remission for, God, I want to say 12 years now, 13
Oh
years.
wow. Congratulations on that, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I had lymphoma. So, I mean, and I had it in my chest and my neck. And so that's, kind of a thing. And I just gotta, I gotta deal with that. But,
Absolutely.
it's fine. I haven't, I've been in remission like all that time, but, it's just one more added layer to this to where I have to be like, okay, I don't want to go down for the count, with this thing that affects this area.
Absolutely.
I could maybe wind up on a tube quicker than most, so.
Of course. Yeah. Well, it's good to see that you have been healthy through all of this, and that's awesome news to hear. So
I'm gonna knock on something, but yeah, so far so good.
it's right. Yeah, my desk is made out of wood too, so I'll back you up
Right?
on that and give you some reinforcements.
Thanks, man.
Well, very cool. So I've only got like 300 questions written down for you, so let's go ahead and jump into this.
Let's do it.
Perfect. So I want to kind of get a little bit of backstory on your musical history before you started playing with Tom Keifer. So I know you're in Nashville now. Is that originally where you're from?
No. I'm from Central Illinois. I'm from a little town in the middle of Illinois called Monmouth originally. Population of about 10,000 people on a good year. I think now they're probably down to 7,500. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was born there and was in that area all the way through college. I graduated college in, I think, December of 99. And I left and I wound up in Atlanta at the beginning of 2000. And I was there from 2000, like January 2000 till roughly August of 2003. And I moved here to join a band at the time, not considering that I was going to, not considering, oh, you're gonna stay there and and be there 17 years later. I thought I'll go to Nashville for a few years and then maybe move on from there. And I met my future ex-wife right when I got here, and kind of built a little bit of a life with her, and then got my career going here playing music to a point. And I just kind of I lucked into it to an extent because and Jeremy would tell you this too. Jeremy Asbrock, our mutual good friend.
Who? No, I'm just
right? The other blonde guy.
Yeah.
So
I say there's so many just blonde guitarists in Nashville. I can't tell you, Phil and Jeremy, and all you guys apart.
Oh, listen, I get called Phil more times. It happens. There's me. There's Phil. There's Jeremy, and then there's
You got Doug. Doug Aldridge isn't in Nashville, but you might as well throw him into.
Yeah, no, I've actually been called. I've had somebody go, "Has anybody ever told you look like Doug Aldrich?" I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
that's a handsome man right there. I'll take it. But Phil and I, we get confused for each other a lot. But then you put us side by side, and I'm, probably 5-6 inches taller than he is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got 6'3", and so that's like, but yeah, Anyways, so if somebody's gonna confuse me for somebody being confused for Phil Schaus, I could do worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's an okay dude. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, what were we even talking about? Oh, Jeremy. That's how it came up. So yeah, I just happened to get here ahead of the curve as far as the rock scene developing here. Because when I got here, there wasn't much of one. I moved here to join a band called Bombshell Crush with another friend of mine named Denny Smith, who I grew up with back in the Midwest. And he was great guitar player, great songwriter. At the time when I moved here, I was playing bass.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know, and Jeremy likes to remind me from time to time that I'm a bass player. And So I moved here playing bass, and I played bass in this band, Bombshell Crush. And at the time we were kind of, I don't know how you describe us, maybe Nashville's answer to, I don't know, Buck Cherry or something. I mean, it was kind of just a straight up old school rock vibe.
Okay.
Um, we had some strong harmonies in the band though. Denny was a really good harmony singer. We sang really well together. And then Billy, our drummer, Billy Baker, was a fantastic harmony singer too. And Michael, the lead singer, was rock solid. And Billy was in a band called Valentine Saloon.
Okay. Did Jeremy ended up playing with for a little bit. Now, I don't mean to pause you real quick, but the Billy Baker referring to, is this Billy Baker from Nashville that makes the drums? Is this the same guy that we're okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
That's
been Facebook friends with Billy for a while, so I'm familiar with him.
yeah. He's like he's like Tommy Lee's bastard kid when he plays drums. So I say kid, he might be Tommy Lee's age, but he's a mother effer of a drummer. He's great. And so we did that, and that ran its course after a couple of years. And everybody kind of splintered off and did their own thing. And at that point I decided, okay, I'm gonna start my own band. And so I started a band called Caprice, and my brother just moved here and he played bass. And I was like, you know what? I write everything on guitar. I like to play guitar. I'm just going to front the band and play guitar, because let's be honest, there's only like 3 dudes, maybe 4, that ever looked cool fronting a band playing bass. It's that's up in the air. There's probably,
I would say that's still debatable on those guys too. That's
well, I mean, Phil Lynott.
But that was the first one that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But,
Lemmy.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, Sting, if you like Sting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It starts getting really into, whatever your perspective on these guys is. So.
But it's also one of those things too, where it was, I want to be in a band with my brother, and that, was, something I'd always wanted to do. And he's a really great bass player. And so it worked out, and I prefer fronting a band and playing guitar. And as fate would have it, I did it long enough that a lot of people in Nashville either kind of forgot I was a bass player, or I was on the scene early enough that most people that caught up to whatever band I was in didn't realize I was a bass player. And so I just kind of wound up making my name in town as a guitar player. And, and the bands I've been in, a lot of, dual lead stuff. Caprice was that way. And the Eastside Gamblers, especially, there's a lot of influence in there in the Thin Lizzy vein, and, stuff like that. And, so that was, always something I enjoyed. And, and so basically I went from Caprice to, when Caprice broke up, I wound up in the Eastside Gamblers, and lo and behold, I've been here for 17 years. And, and then I wound up in a band with Tom.
That's great. So Eastside Gamblers, you guys put a record out. I think the last one was in 2018, if I'm correct.
That's right.
And you said that you've been working a little on some new stuff. Can you give us maybe an update on some timeline of when we can expect to see something out of that camp?
Oh, I'd love to. I tell you what, we demoed. I've literally still got to finish vocals, and we got a couple like overdubs to do, but we've, done pre-production demos for 6 tunes, and other stuff just kind of sitting on deck waiting to go. Just kind of going around schedules and stuff like that. And, honestly, and I don't know if anybody else, I don't know if you can relate to this or not, trying to make sure while we're working on it, I think, that the inspiration is there because it's supposed to be there, and not because it's a forced thing, because we're in lockdown and there's nothing else to do. You know what I mean? Like I hate to be this way. I almost feel like I don't actually, I know this about myself. I work better with a deadline. And right now there are no deadlines. And so it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing to have all this time to be able to do whatever it is you're doing, but it's a curse if there's nobody there to tell you it's done.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Over scrutinized.
You got all the free time and you have the motivation, but unless there's somebody there that's like, reminding you that, hey, no, that has to be done. It's like, it's a little different when you've got 7 days of just laying on the couch watching Netflix, and you're like, man, I'll get to it next week or something like that.
Man, it's tough. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. the initial staycation aspect of this lockdown was rather enjoyable for.
Oh, dude, March and April are just like of last year. That feels like that went on for like 9 months. Like now, when I look back, because it was such a weird time of not knowing if this was like, okay, like a week from now, we're just all going back to work and we'll forget that this ever even happened.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
you're like, nope, I literally haven't left my house in like 10 days. So
Yeah, you're like you start. It's Groundhog Day every day. It's like what day is it?
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Some of the
yeah,
best memes I've seen have been equating this to Groundhog Day.
yeah, and they're all accurate. I mean, it's crazy. So, but yeah, so I mean, listen, we're working on it, and I will say it was a lot of downtime around the holidays, and a lot of kind of strife and turmoil just in this country, around the election and all that, and I think it's one of those things that just it felt like it just kind of slowed everything down, just sucked everything into a vortex where just not much was happening, and now we're out of that, and the motivation's there again, and I'm starting to get excited about it again, which is really good. I think, if I'm speaking candidly, I've been on the road with Tom for 8 years, and I have never gone this long without playing a gig in my life. Like not since I started playing gigs when I was 14 years old. And I didn't realize how much maybe I needed a break from playing a gig for a while. But now, instead of being this routine or this thing that it's, just expected, it's just what I do. And, you do it all the time. It reinvigorates me and helps me, not take for granted when the next opportunity is going to come to be able to do that. And, so if there's, and that's starting to extend into the songwriting a little bit too, and into the creative mode, and starting to get me excited about creating, not just doing it because I feel like I have to do it.
No, I can totally relate to the feeling like you have to do it. Cause if we were to lock down for a year and a half and then come out of it, and then just, you're thinking to yourself like, man, I had a year and a half and I didn't write any new music, or I didn't record anything, or anything like that, it would, you would feel very unfulfilled and like you wasted a lot of time. So I can totally relate to that.
But if somebody could tell me, hey man, you're gonna be playing shows again in June, I'd be like, fuck, we got to get this done. Like I'd be like, snap, let's get together, let's start jamming,
I'd probably record 3 albums between now and then,
right?
Because I wouldn't know when I'd have the chance to do it again.
Right. And then, and honestly, the other thing too is, with this new material, we did the last EP with Nick Raskulinix. And I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, Grammy award-winning producer, has done some of my favorite records in the last 20 years, Foo Fighters records and Mastodon and, Deftones and Alice in Chains.
Some great bands.
Yeah. I mean, he's worked with a couple, right?
Yeah.
And he elevated our game, and, depending on Nick's schedule and all that stuff, whether or not he's able to do the next one and wants to, I just feel like he's elevated our game, and now it's like, all right, what are we going to do after that? How are we going to follow that up? And he took us, he got us over a hump to another level, but I don't want to plateau musically. I want us to keep, kind of pushing forward and pushing ourselves a little bit, stretching out, not like, any avant-garde bullshit. We're not going to, we're not adding a synth player to the band or anything like that. It's going to be, 2 guitar, loud, dirty rock, but, just like I said, musically stretching out just a little bit, just kind of, feeling our oats a little bit,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. We'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully we'll hear some of that new music that you've been piddling away at here soon.
Yes, you will. We'll get
Perfect.
on.
Very cool. So I want to kind of jump into the Tom Keifer thing now. You mentioned that you've been on the road with him for about 8 years. So if you don't care, can you kind of brief everybody on how you got the Keifer gig?
Do you know the story at all?
I do not know the story, so I'm going to get to hear it for the first time as well.
All right. No, it's pretty funny. So, I was working as the vintage and platinum manager for Guitar Center in Nashville, right? And I've been doing that for a long time and playing in the Eastside Gamblers at that time. The Gamblers have been going for, I don't know, maybe a couple years.
Okay.
And, you know, I knew everybody in Cinderella before Tom. I'd known Eric pretty much since I moved here.
Okay.
My former sister-in-law actually was in his band Naked Beggars with him. I got her the gig by introducing them. She's a real talented girl named Christine. And then I wound up meeting Jeff through Eric after he moved here shortly thereafter. And then I met Fred. He came in to see me at work when he needed some stuff when Cinderella was rehearsing for a tour. So the last person I meet in that whole thing is Tom. And basically Fred told Tom to come see me. You're getting the full version, by the way. You're not getting the Crib Nuts version. You're not getting the Crib Nuts version.
Yeah, this is great.
So Tom comes to see me. Fred had sent him in because, I mean, Tom's had some bitching, badass vintage guitars over the years. And at the time he had a 51 no-caster, a real Fender 51 no-caster. And I mean, listen, that's a $50,000 or $60,000 guitar. And
absolutely.
yeah. And you know, granted, he probably bought it in 1986 for, you know, a couple $1,000 or something, but you know, that's wise investments. If we'd known then what we know now, right?
Absolutely.
So he, you know, he came in to buy a guitar, a Fender Relic that looked like that to take on the road. That wasn't that. So he didn't have to worry about taking that guitar on the road. That's the first time I met him. And, you know, we stayed acquainted and he would come in and, you know, every once in a while he needed something, call me. And one day he came in and was sitting by my desk and he goes, he just made an offhanded comment about how he had a solo record. He was going to come back and see me about a couple things because he had a solo record that he had made that was going to be coming out. And just in passing, he made a comment about, yeah, he goes, it's gonna be weird. I got to put a band together. And, you know, I played with the same band for 30 years. And, you know, it's really strange to even think about, you know, putting a band together to go tour support this record. I've been doing the same thing for since I was a kid. And just in that conversation, I just made a passing comment. I said, I said, if you need any help putting the band together, let me know. That's all I said. So anyways, so here's what happened after that I didn't know about until later. So Tom left the store that day and he called a buddy of his named Blair, and Blair is the godfather of their child. And evidently there had been an incident where Tom had went and done some sort of a radio convention thing and done a couple of songs off the new record acoustically for some PR people. And had called Blair because Blair's a songwriter who'd written some stuff with Savannah. I think he even wrote some stuff. I know he wrote some stuff on that first Tom Keifer solo record, The Way Life Goes. He co-wrote with Tom and Savannah, and really talented guy. Called Blair and said, hey man, this is before I talked to him about it. He was going to do these radio things. He goes, hey man, do you know anybody in Nashville who would be like a guitar player I could take with me that sings harmony well and could go do this acoustic thing with me? And Blair's like, man, I feel like I know somebody, but it's just not coming to mind. And I think when Tom did it, he wound up taking, maybe Paul Taylor went with him, you know, and that was the end of that conversation. So anyways, he left the store after talking to me that day about, you know, or after I made that comment. And like I said, it was just a passing comment. And he called Blair and he goes, hey man, he goes, do you know Tony Higbee? And Blair just went, oh, that guy was he would have been perfect for that, blah, 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 blah. And so
nice.
Blair knew me through completely different channels. I got to be friends with a guy named James Michael. You know James from 6 a.m.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, singer from 6 a.m. And great songwriter, great producer, produced like all that Motley stuff from like, I think Saints of Los Angeles out until they, you know, retired.
Well, yeah, I know 6 a.m. was like heavily involved on that Saints of Los Angeles record. I know DJ helped with some of the writing on it as well. So,
Yeah. So, but James had moved to Nashville for a while. He had a stint here for a few years. Him and I got to be really good buddies. And I had met Blair at a party over at James's house. And then Blair and James used to come watch my old band Caprice, and then later the Eastside Gamblers when we were playing shows. And, so that's how Blair knew of me. And then him and Tom started talking and whatever. So a week or two later, I get a phone call from Tom, and it was funny. He goes, "Hey, you remember when I told you that I was, thinking about putting, I need to go towards and support this record?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I need to come in and look at some new amps. I got these old Marshalls I've been taking out with Cinderella, since the 80s. And, I can't trust them. And I need to maybe get something else." I'm like, "All right, cool. Yeah, come on down." So shows up, and I plug him into something, and he cranks it up, and he's playing, and he's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, this sounds great. Yeah, man. And, he's like, "Here, man." He goes, "Here, you play it. Let me stand back and listen to it and kind of hear what it stands for."
Okay.
And so he handed me the guitar, and I probably started playing a UFO riff, and not knowing that he was a massive UFO fan. And so I probably played rock bottom. And so I'm sitting there, I'm playing, and I'm not thinking anything of it. And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, man, that sounds great. Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Hey, while we're here, can we go check out the acoustics?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come on." So walk over to the acoustic room, sit down, going back and forth some acoustics, like, "Oh yeah, sounds killer." And we're back and forth. And he reaches over, and we're like this little small room with a sliding door. He reaches over and he slides the door shut. He's like, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Hey man, so do they ever let you leave this place?" And I look at him and I go, I leave at like 5 o'clock every day." He goes, and and he goes, No. I mean, like, if you wanted to go out and, do some shows. I'm like, "Yeah, totally." And he goes, and that's kind of where it started. So
Okay.
he came out and watched my band play a show a couple weeks later. And, it's pretty funny because we're in his club, and he's as tall as I am. And he was probably wearing like big old boots or something. And he's in this club, like standing in the back of 12th and Porter, and you can see him clear in the back of the room against the wall, and there's people coming up to me while we're playing the show going, "Hey, Tom Keifer's back there?" And what's funny at the time, and if I'm being completely honest, Tom Keifer sightings in Nashville were like Sasquatch sightings.
Okay.
You knew he was here, but you just, every once in a while, Billy, my drummer, come in, "Man, I saw Tom Keifer at the Home Depot today."
That's great.
Well, yeah. And somebody be like, "What do you look like?" Is, "Well, you look like Tom Keifer." Like the necklaces and and all that. Anyways. So anyways, he was there and he was just checking out the band. And he pretty much like wanted the rhythm section of the band and me. But it was impossible for the other guys in the rhythm section. And, we talked about it. And so I wound up getting together with him just acoustically over at his house. We sat out some acoustic guitars, played, sang together, kind of got a vibe for the whole thing. And then he asked me if I, knew anybody else. And I called my buddy Paulie Simmons at the time, who had been off the road from Reverend Horton Heat for a while, to play drums. And I knew Paulie needed a gig. And
Is this Paul that just got to play She on the Ace Frehley record with Jeremy and them?
Did he?
Paul Simmons, I know, is the drummer that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just connecting the dots for myself and anybody that might be listening.
So it was Paul Simmons. And then Paul called Billy Mercer, the bass player, because Paul knew Billy. And the four of us got together. And I think Tom had it in his mind at the time. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to try out a few drummers, a couple bass players, and blah, blah." And we got together and we ran down like 3 or 4 songs. And Tom was just like, "Wow." And then that was just the band. He added Paul Taylor to it. And that's kind of where it started. And I'll be honest with you, I took the gig thinking realistically, like I think anybody in my position would, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go do this solo record tour for Tom, doing clubs. It's going to be 6 to 9 months, few runs. He'll do his solo record thing, and then he's going to go back to Cinderella. Because 9 times out of 10, when you get a singer or a member of a band that's that prominent, that's what happens, and it's totally fine. That was the expectation I had of that gig. And then at the end of that tour, Tom's like, "So how do you guys feel about going out again next year?" Would love to. So we went out again the next year, and it got a little bigger. And at the end of that year, so how would you guys feel about going out again next year? Would love to. And then, he kind of made it be known that that was just kind of what he wanted to do now. And, we just kind of been going ever since.
That's great. Appreciate you telling that story. That's awesome. I had never heard that before.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
well, that's great. So you guys got to put a record out right towards the end of 2019. So I wanted to ask you how involved you got to be on the songwriting with that. Of course, we all know what a great rock songwriter Tom Keifer is. So what was really your approach with that, and how involved did you get to be?
Well, I mean, if you want to get down to the brass tacks of songwriting and publishing, that was a Tom and Savannah thing.
Okay.
He gets into a mode I discovered where he's very prolific when he's ready to write. It's like, it just goes, and it's like, "Hey, are we ready to start writing the record?" "Oh, it's done." It's like, whoa, And so in that aspect, I mean, the basic structure of the songs, the lyrics, the melodies, all that was them. Now, when we went to record and do basic tracks, that was all of us together in a room, hashing out all the arrangements, the tempos, the parts, coming up with our parts, so on and so forth, there, making sure everything jived, and then initially capturing drums and bass in a track, but with the whole band playing, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And just the guitars and the vocals and all that isolated. Now, there's a couple of moments on that record where there's stuff that we didn't intend to keep that we kept from that. I mean, there's one song in particular that's got kind of a real, like a Stonesy, Wild Horses, Angie kind of a vibe. Why is the name escaping me right now?
I was just listening to it before we got on here.
Waiting on the Demons. That's
okay.
Acoustic. And as it turned out, like when we were doing it, probably the third or fourth pass of us trying to get the bass and the drums, just get a feel for it. We did a take, and the acoustic guitars, the bass, the drums, and Tom's vocal all wound up being the take.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if you listen to that song, a couple things you'll notice: the acoustics aren't mic'd. Those are our live Gibsons that are plugged into under the saddle pickups in those acoustics. And our engineer Kyle was able to make them sound, more than usable. He made them sound great. And then Tom, his vocal on that, if you listen, you can hear him, like his breathing on the live, like the SM58. You can hear his necklaces jingling, like before he goes to hit the first. And I listened to it, and it still kind of gives me goosebumps. And then we went back.
That's great.
Yeah, I went back and listened to it, and I wound up putting a kind of a Keithy Stonesy kind of electric feel down. I actually used Tom's old 59 burst for that, and
nice.
combo amp. And I think that was the second take. I was going like, I need to do this and this. Tom's like, "No, that was perfect. Leave it." So that's on there. And then Tom did a ridiculous lap steel solo. And so, but I mean, I think everything else, piano too, I think all of that was cut live on the deck in that room.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's a couple other moments on there too. Tom would probably, he probably wouldn't tell you where they were, and I'd have a hard time picking them out. I mean, we used a lot of great amplifiers on this record. There's a couple tracks on this record where Tom was plugged into an original Line 6 pod in those sessions. We were just getting the bass and the drums, and I was plugged into like one of those old Vox Valvetronics things, which is like the version of the pod. That was what we were using just in headphones. And there's a couple tracks on there that I would challenge anybody to find that are actually those tracks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They're mixed in with like vintage plexis and Bogners and, all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I know you guys have been laying low. Has there not been any talk of possibly going back in and working on some more music?
No. There's been no talk of that. But I feel like with Tom, and I don't want to speak for him, you know, but it seems like the vibe I'm getting is we just started to support that record when this all went down.
Yeah.
And you know, we're all real proud of that album. And I feel like once again, this could all change tomorrow. I don't know. But if I was betting, man, I feel like when this whole COVID thing gets put to bed and, you know, the vaccination gets out there and the immunity and blah, 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 I feel like we're probably going to go out and really give this record a proper working and, you know, maybe get creative in the process.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Now, I might get a phone call tomorrow and find out that he's written 3 records while he's been home. I don't think so. I haven't heard anything about it. But like I said, the last one, when I was told we were getting ready to work on a new record, I thought I thought it was going to be a process. It was going to be, you know, several months of writing and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, it's pretty much almost already written. I'm like, whoa, you know? So, yeah.
That's great. And now that we kind of gone through that a little bit, one thing I wanted to ask you about is we got connected through our mutual friend Jeremy Asbrock. So I wanted to ask how you met Jeremy, if you could tell that story.
How did I meet Jeremy? That's a good question. I remember the first time I saw Jeremy play. I just moved here to join that band Bombshell Crush, and he was in a band called the Shazam, and they were playing 12 and Porter. And went and saw Jeremy play 12 and Porter, and he was the only dude I'd ever seen up to that point on stage rocking a 77 Gibson RD.
Yeah, I remember that guitar very well.
Owning it, you know. And yeah, Jeremy's just good vibe, good hang. And then, so Jeremy and I we probably met that night. And, you know, had a little small talk or whatever. And Jeremy I casually got to know each other, you know, in the rock scene here, because it was very small at the time. And then I mentioned I was a bass player. The Shazam bass player quit. And in between Bombshell Crush and me trying to get Caprice off the ground, Jeremy reached out to me about coming and playing bass for the Shazam.
Okay.
And so I did some shows with them. We did a tour, a little Stevens Underground Garage tour, and had a blast doing that. And Jeremy and I cruised some highways in his well-worn Dodge Dakota at the time, you know, going to gigs and stuff like that, and really getting to know each other. And, you know, he's the guy who probably is responsible, or actually he's absolutely the guy who's responsible for getting me into Humble Pie. And I'm absolutely the guy who's responsible for getting him into Rory Gallagher.
Okay, nice.
So, hence his son's name.
Oh, nice. Absolutely. That's great. Well, Tony, it's been very nice getting to meet you, and I appreciate you so much coming on here and giving me a little bit of your time. It was awesome getting to hear your story with Tom and the Eastside Gamblers and everything. So we'll definitely have to do this again sometime. Anytime you've got some music coming out with the Gamblers or Keifer's working on something, you want to come pimp it, feel free to hit me up and we'll set something up anytime.
And Brandon, I appreciate it. It's been a blast. And thanks for being such a hospitable host.
Hey, I do what I can. What I tell everybody is this is just 2 guys hanging out on Zoom for an hour or so. So it's real low pressure. It's just a good hang. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. So.
Well, very cool. Me and you'll be able to say goodbye off air. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I will be back here tomorrow night with Mr. Chips Enough from Enough's Enough. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Tony.
Take care, man.